Okay, let's get right into it. For the longest time, the advice from Y Combinator, the most successful startup accelerator on the planet, was basically a secret. It was all shared behind closed doors. But then, they put their entire billion-dollar playbook on the record for the first time ever in this just legendary Stanford lecture. And today, we're going to unpack the key insights from that exact talk.
Yeah, this wasn't just, another talk. This was a huge deal. Like YC's president Sam Altman said himself, this was the moment their core teachings, the stuff that shaped over 700 companies, finally went public. I mean, we're talking about the foundational advice that companies like Airbnb, Dropbox, and Stripe got in their earliest days. Pretty incredible.
So why they do it? What was so important they had to spill the beans? Well, it turns out that a ton of the popular advice you hear about startups, the stuff that's all over Silicon Valley, is, in their words, completely wrong, like backward. So that's what we're doing here. We're going to take those popular myths and flip them right on their head.
All right, let's jump into myth number 1. And this one? Oh man, you hear it everywhere. Ideas are cheap. It's all about the execution. The whole vibe is, just start. Build something, anything, and you'll figure it out along the way. But is that really how the biggest companies got their start?
So this first point just completely demolishes that whole pivot-happy culture. The myth is that you can just throw spaghetti at the wall and pivot your way into a billion-dollar company. But Sam Altman is super clear on this. Nope. The reality is, most great companies start with a great idea, period. His quote is perfect. Great execution on a terrible idea gets you nowhere. You're just spinning your wheels.
Okay, and this is where things get really interesting and kind of weird. The other side of this myth is that your idea has to sound massive right out of the gate. We're going to disrupt a trillion-dollar market. But the reality, it's the exact opposite. The best ideas, they often look bad. Or at least they look really, really small at first. The real goal isn't to tackle some huge market. It's to find a tiny niche market, completely own it, become a monopoly, and then expand out from there. I mean, just think about it for a second. Google, they were the 13th search engine, and they got rid of all the stuff everyone else thought was important. Facebook, just for college kids, with no money. Meanwhile, MySpace was the king. And Airbnb? Come on, an idea to get people to sleep on strangers' air mattresses? It sounds insane. To most people, these all sounded like genuinely terrible, dead-end ideas.
And that's the whole point, right? Altman nails it. You're not trying to find an idea that makes everyone nod and say, oh, that's smart. Because if it was that obvious, a giant company would already be all over it. The real sweet spot, the thing you're actually looking for, is an idea that sounds crazy to everyone else, but that is right. Unpopular, but right. That's the magic formula.
Okay, so let's say you've done it. You've got your unpopular but right idea. You've found that tiny market you're going to dominate. Now what? Well, now you got to actually build the thing, the product. And that brings us right to myth number 2, which is all about the biggest mistake people make with their very first version.
The whole thing really boils down to this one question. What's better, having a lot of people kind of like your product, or having a very small number of people who are absolutely obsessed with it, who love it? The answer is probably not the one you'd expect.
So think of it like 2 different roads. On one side, you've got the like path. It's super wide, but it's also super shallow. You build something that tons of people think is fine. It's okay. Altman calls this a great way to fail and not know why. Ouch. Then you have the love path. This one is really narrow, but it's incredibly deep. You build something that a small handful of users are just fanatical about. They can't live without it. And that is the only real foundation for growth.
But why, though? Why is that so much better? Well, this quote lays it all out. It is so much easier to grow by expanding from a small group of fanatics than it is to take a huge crowd of people who just like you and try to turn them into fanatics. That almost never works. That deep initial love, that's what creates real word of mouth. And in the beginning, that's the only growth engine that actually matters.
All right, so you've got the idea. You've got the product that a small group adores. You're set, right? Not so fast. That's only half the battle. What about you, the founder? What's your why? This brings us to our third and final myth, and this one is all about the so-called founder's dream. And for this, we're bringing in insights from Facebook co-founder Dustin Moskovitz. So Moskovitz just systematically tears down the 4 most common and totally wrong reasons people get into this. First up, the glamour. Forget the movies. The reality isn't parties. It's stressful, grinding, hard work. Second, I want to be the boss.
Nope, you're not the boss. You're at the bottom, serving everyone, your customers, your employees, your investors. Third, I want flexibility. That's a good one. It's literally the opposite. You are always on. And last, number 4, for the money and the impact. Moskowitz makes a killer point here. You can often make way more of both by just joining a rocket ship startup that's already taking off.
Okay, well, so if it's not for the glamour, not to be the boss, not for a flexible schedule, and not even necessarily for the money, then what the heck is left? Once you strip away all those shiny, fake reasons, what is the one real reason to actually do this? And honestly, this is the most important question of all. If you're out there, maybe with an idea in the back of your head, what's the real reason you want to do it?
Here's the answer. And it's not some clever business strategy. It's a feeling. Dustin Moskowitz describes it perfectly. He said the feeling was, you can't not do it. The idea was like beating itself out of our chest, like forcing itself into the world. That's it. The only real reason is that you feel this deep, undeniable compulsion to solve a problem you just care so much about.
And that really is the final, powerful takeaway from this whole playbook. It's not about finding a clever market hack or seeing a gap on a spreadsheet. It's about finding a problem that you are so completely obsessed with, so compelled to solve, that you literally can't not work on it. So the final question to ask yourself isn't, what's a good idea? It's, what problem can't I stop myself from solving?